search and
yeah.
graduate school applications.
Yeah, this is career coach 101 here.
Yeah.
This is like you were in it.
It's important to know that you can use those skills and not only use those, but a tip is that you can put that on your resume.
So having that connection to yourself and to your family. Hello and welcome to Career View Mirror. I'm your host, Joyel Crawford, and we have a very special guest, Miss Christine Ramsey, who is a life empowerment coach. She has been in this space speaking, coaching, and being a DEI consultant for over 6 years. But she has a lot more experience to share, which is why she's on the show today. And both of us are sporting our red family. Unbeknownst to us, I didn't even know that it's Dyslexia Awareness Month. And red is their color. So I'm honoring this. I just intuitively honor Dyslexia Awareness Month. But there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. We've got Mental Health Awareness Month. We've got Breast Cancer Awareness Month. But this is your lane, Christine. Neurodiversity is your lane. DEI is your lane. Speaking about it is your lane. So welcome to the show.
Thank you, Joy. I'm so excited to be here and have a conversation together.
Yes. So tell me a little bit more about, if you looked into your career view mirror, tell me a little bit more about how you got into this space at all. Like, how did it find you, or did you find it?
I love this question because it's like my why came and found me. Didn't know this was going to be my career path. So I was in marketing and sales for the first kind of 11 years of my life. I went to school and I was like, oh, what am I going to study? Chose business because I was like, oh, everything's a business. So let me start there. Mm-hmm. And it came to a point I was doing, I liked my job, but I didn't love it. I knew that it wasn't fulfilling me in a way that I wanted my career to. Mm-hmm. So my why came and found me through my son. At the time, my son was 3. And he was diagnosed with ASD, autism syndrome disorder. And so I look at that pivotal moment because I remember exactly where I was. I was at my kitchen table seeing this diagnosis, which right now to me, seems silly. Like I was crying and I'm like, this is actually a huge blessing. But at the moment I was just shocked and seeing this news. And my husband, my spouse asked me, the question is, you know what, it's a label. What are we going to do about it?
Right.
And in those moments, I was like, you know what? What are we going to do about it? This is what we're going to do about it. I'm going to shift my entire career and really dedicate myself to a space where I feel like all people are seen, heard, valued, celebrated, and loved. And it came in that one moment because I said, this is what my life I've been prepared to do. I grew up with, this, Joy, grew up with my immigrant parents. They're Armenians from Iran. So my first language is Armenian. And growing up, you see a lot of beauty that comes with having this rich cultural upbringing. But in the same sense, you see a lot of bias and stereotyping and just really a lot of challenges that comes with feeling like you're different.
Yes.
And so in that, one moment, it's hard to describe. It was this feeling of, what am I doing with my life? And this really this purpose of mine became so, just fueled me. I said, this is the space I want to be. I want to create spaces for people, for organizations where people feel like their authentic selves belong. Really they feel their passion and know that they have this inner genius within each of them, that they can do anything that they want in life.
That is fantastic. And I mean, did you just literally turn on a dime as you were sitting there at the kitchen table and you're like, I got to get out of this marketing job or sales job and switch it up? I mean, did you do research, or did it just feel like it was just like a snap judgment? Like, how did the process go from learning about your son to moving into the space, into the DEI space?
Yeah, so I said, okay, what can get me closest to this type of role? And back then, even diversity, equity, inclusion roles didn't really exist.
Right.
So I said, okay, where can I really help people? And so I felt with a business background, right? Like I knew a little bit about HR since I interacted with a lot of HR colleagues. This is the space that I kind of want to be in. So I took a kind of a whole leap in the sense that I started over in HR and I started to apply for HR positions. Now they were positions that were kind of, again, on the lower end of where I was. And I always say, it's like I took a step back to then take a leap forward.
Yes.
And I encourage others who are in that space of being in a position for 10 plus years and not feeling fulfilled. Sometimes it's okay to explore options that will get your foot in the door on just something that you really love to do, and then be able to climb that ladder, knowing that you're fulfilling your purpose. So that's what I did. I was very thankful. The leader who brought me into the organization, we're still great friends today. She saw a lot of transferable skills. So it's really like how I was positioning myself around, these are the critical skills that I have learned, and also bring that diversity perspective to my role, which was, again, ways that my mentors were helping me craft that story, right? Because I think that's important to find those mentors in your life that can help translate that story for you, as much as you're doing it for yourself. And so that's how I got my foot in the door into HR, and just kept exploring different roles and finding my path forward.
So you chipped away, and honestly, it can be really scary to take that kind of step back to move forward. And I've done it a couple of times. It's almost like you're on in a car and you kind of, put it in reverse or turn the wheel a little bit. I like to say to my clients that we're in the driver's seat of our career. And it's not a career ladder, it's a lattice, because there's all these different ways that you can move back and forth, and you do need to adjust for that and think about, am I going to make this financial decision, not only financial, but career decision, overall professional decision to move into a completely different organization. And it's hard to get into HR. So good for you for being able to identify your transferable skills. Now, this little bonus question that I'd never asked, that I was going to ask you, told you I was going to ask, but what were some of the transferable skills that you took from marketing and sales into human resources for those that are looking to get into HR?
Yeah, well, I had I had a very unique role as well, like where I was leading people within my role. So I brought in a lot of the leading programs, leading people, being able to display my competencies around, what leadership developments that I've had. So I brought, those skill sets to the table. My marketing background actually was a really key skill that I brought. Like you would think like, okay, what does marketing have to do with HR?
Well, I do. I know. 20 years in it. It's very important.
Very important. Yeah, it's very important, the communication aspect and the marketing of programs, and how you're bringing the change management to the function, and how you bring it back to the business. That, and then, my selling skills of really the interpersonal connection. So those are some key skills that the leader at the time saw and said, okay, yes, you don't know fundamentally like HR programs, but that's okay. You have all these transferable skills and we're going to teach you. So I went back and got my master's. I'm still in my master's. It's been 9 years. I'm still in my master's.
Hey, you're still doing it. You haven't given up yet.
I haven't given up yet, but started with, human resource development, and, started a master's program. It's taken me again a few years, but as you said, it's okay. It's a journey.
Yeah.
And so I say it's always okay to come into a space that's unknown to you. I think that's where you learn the most, when you're able to take that leap. And you go back to the question around the financial piece of it. I just want to be super real. It was a big financial leap. It was a position that would pay me, a lot less. So it was tough. That's something that my spouse and I kind of struggled, but we, did a lot of downsizing. We did a lot of things that, to make it work. But it was tough. It was a tough couple of years to go through that. But I say it was worth every moment of that, just because it really was my passion to be in this space.
Right. And it's not the change that does us, and it's the messy middle, right? So it's not the beginning of the change or the end of the change. It's all that in between, but you can really reap the benefits of all of that. So that's a message out there for all of our watchers and listeners, our audience, is that, it might be scary to take that step back. And it's really important to look at whether you can financially do this. Maybe find an opportunity outside of the organization if you can't take a step back by volunteering to be on a board as their HR person or what have you, so that you can get that experience while you're doing whatever it is that you're doing in the meantime. But there's always a way, right, Christine?
Always. And I think it stems a lot from my background with my parents. Like they came to the US, right? Like through war. I mean, they've been through a lot. And I'm like, they were able to make it here, through all the turmoil, through all the incredible resilience that they've had. And it almost goes back to I know we've talked about this word, Joyce, the surrender, right?
Yes.
Like truly saying to yourself, I trust my intuition fully. And I'm going to surrender to whatever kind of outside being that you believe in. For me, it's God, but for others, it could be different, and almost surrender to these beings like you're going to be taken care of. Know that your intuition is guiding you in the right way, and really be able to trust it.
Yes.
And that's kind of a family lesson that I've seen with my parents. They've built so much, and they kept trusting their intuition and surrendering their faith throughout their lives. So I know it's a little bit deep there, but
no, but it's great. It's a great
Yeah.
value to instill in your children and to others. And through the work that you're doing, you heard the call and you answered it. And you're able to impact so many lives, not just in your home base, which is the most important, but you're able to do this for so many other people, and making sure that those who don't feel seen, heard, or understood can be seen, heard, and understood. So I really appreciate you sharing that. Did you have to, I know that you said you went back, you're getting your master's in human resources. For DEI work, or even more specifically in neurodiversity work that you do, did you have to get any types of certifications or licenses or anything like that to work in that space?
So yeah, it's definitely we all have to be lifelong learners, right? And I think it does stem, especially with the DEI work, is doing a lot of self-reflection and deep self-inner work. So from being certified, I would say becoming certified in social and emotional intelligence, definitely doing a lot of self-discovery, of your own unconscious bias. So I got certified in the neuroscience of inclusion through this company called Brain Skills at Work. They're fantastic. Also really understanding the fundamentals of the DEI work. So really, I went through an amazing program through National Diversity Council that they actually certify you as a diversity professional, and they do week-long programs that are absolutely just fantastic, because it's not only the self-reflection, but it's truly understanding the various privileges and, really understanding the fundamentals to the equity conversation. And so it really digs deep into what does it mean to create change within DEI. And as much as we say we love our passion, it does go beyond that. So, continuing to be a lifelong learner and self-critique and self-evaluation and self-awareness, and how we can champion and advocate for others when we can truly recognize that within ourselves. So those are just some, there's a lot more that I'm learning every day, just new language, new ways of exploration. But I always find the inner work is the most important. I found very much so the reason why I'm so connected to belonging is because for so long, I haven't owned my own power through connection and belonging. And so it's pretty fascinating that the things that you almost want to help people kind of solve is things that you're, exploring for yourself. It's a mirror, it's a mirror. So there is just a lot of richness that I'm learning about, why I felt compelled to really dig deep into what connection and belonging means. So
That's
just a little bit.
huge. That is really huge. And I think a lot of, DEI is very hot, 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 hot. And I know that, I've gotten a certification, the University of Southern Florida, the Mumma College of Business, School of Business, they gave out free DEI certifications. So I took advantage of that. But I think that there's a lot, like you said, about self-work that needs to happen first before you start working in that space. Because I'm not there yet. I know that is not my lane yet. I'd like to incorporate it in my leadership coaching, but I just feel like there are still some things that trigger me, and I might turn into like Samuel Jackson, be like, yes, he deserves to die. I hope he burns in hell. Like, I just feel like my anger, my inner anger towards certain things may need to be resolved a bit more before I get into that space. How do you know when you're ready? How do you know that you've done the self-work in order to help others? Because I know I'm not there yet.
I mean, I think it's just this, it's leading with curiosity, with almost this way of saying, how can you help foster a place where people do feel like they belong, and that, they are doing the work. It is hard. I'm not going to lie. Like I go through these periods too of like, how do you not understand how, and so there are those periods as well. I'm not going to, sugarcoat that by all means. But I think for me, it's just, on the broader scale of like, truly, if there is that one person that I'm impacting, is that one person that I'm impacting. And I can't change everyone. That's the thing. It's like, you have to know to be open to change yourself first. And so part of it is, how do you awaken humanity? How do you awaken people's consciousness? And so like, as a leadership coach for yourself, like you do that already. You awaken, right? Conscious leaders. And that's, I think, the huge, what's the word? The stepping point to helping foster the work. There's this awesome quote. I actually wrote it down because I was like, I want to make sure I tell your audience this, because it was so powerful. I read the other day, Brene Brown, she wrote an amazing, love her. And she wrote an amazing quote. Can I share it with you?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Okay. She goes, true belonging is the spiritual practice of believing in and belonging to yourself so deeply that you can share your most authentic self with the world, and find sacredness in both being a part of something and standing alone in the wilderness. True belonging doesn't require you to change who you are. It requires you to be who you are.
Ooh.
And I was like, that is so perfect, because so oftentimes, people are holding back, not owning their own power. So much that goes into it is when we can really be able to, be conscious to our own dimensions of diversity that really lean into that.
That is wonderful. It's beautiful. Is that what book is that from, or what?
I can't remember. I think it's like something in the wilderness. Brave in the wilderness,
or awful. I hope she's not listening. She's gonna be like, she's hacking up my title. But we love you, Brene, if you're listening.
I know she took my quote, but can't promote my book.
It's some good Brene Brown goodness, and we love her. So I love that quote, because it's true. There's a lot of times where people are challenged with changing who they are so that they can fit into this box, this corporate box of belonging. Whereas I think the box needs to expand. Instead of us fitting in, I think the box needs to envelop us, right?
Exactly. And that's part of this work within DEI is, because there's so much biases that people experience, and we all have them. We all have these biases, but it's starting with yourself first, and just giving you the space and say, I'm going to own my voice here, and authentically be who you are. And sometimes I know it's hard because you're trying to fit into other people's expectations of you. But almost, not caring, like Brene says in her book.
Yeah, be
Yeah, exactly.
who you are. I love that. I want to know, a little bit more. Let's dig a little deeper into Christine's world. How do you fill your cup? Like, how do you stay energetically lifted with all of the things that you're doing? I mean, you're breaking down boundaries and making inclusive workforces happen. You are a mom, you are a spouse, you are a wonderful ally as far as, Christine and I know each other. We were in the same fantastic group called The Crew, founded by Tiffany Dufu. So if you haven't heard of that, you can learn more. I'll put some information in our notes for that. Shameless plug, but how do you do it all? How do you keep your cup full, Christine?
I certainly don't do it all. Like what Tiffany says, drop the ball, right? Yeah. We have to drop the ball to get certain things. But I think for me, it's been really honing in on what are my true values, what are things that I want to prioritize on, and going from there. I know before, I wanted to do everything and perfectly, and and you can't do everything. You have to really hone in on what matters to you most. And so one is health. I found that, really putting myself first, which is hard to do.
Yes.
I know you can relate with me, Joy, because it's hard. It is. It's like when you're so engrossed with serving others, right? But what I found is you can't serve others when you're not taking care of yourself. So I really made it a daily practice for myself to wake up in the morning and do meditation. Is really helped me find that space to slow down my mind, be in the present. I'm naturally a to-do lister with like checklists, and I just want to achieve everything and get everything done. And for me, it's like not thinking about the future, not thinking about the past, but truly be one with your breath in the moment has been very transformative to how I care for myself. So that has been a daily practice, and through that, finding gratitude. So I every morning put my feet down, I say thank you for another day on this planet. And that's kind of the mindset that I have. And anytime that I feel flustered, or if I literally get up from my seat and I do a 10-minute meditation, and I just
Put yourself in time out.
I give myself time. I'm like, no, this is because for me, what I found when I'm in those frantic state, I don't show up to my meetings at work or in my life with my kids. Like I don't show up the way that I want to show up. And it's like a 5-minute or 10-minute shift of like just a small daily affirmation or whatever I do. The shift in energy really transcends then the relationship or the conversation I'm having. So it's kind of like checking in with yourself and being like, hey, why am I not feeling good right now? Something just triggered me. Instead of reacting to it, take a moment for yourself to take a step back and pause, and then reflect, in the conversation. And that's kind of what I also help leaders do with, especially in a diversity and equity inclusion conversation, is be able to really take a mindful step back, recognize what you're fearful of in that moment. You might want to fight, flight, and freeze. Why? Right? Like instead of reacting to it, take that pause and then come back. So that's been a huge one for me, is being able to do some meditation and just some self-care. Setting boundaries has been another one. Being able to really hone in on, I can't be on work 24 hours a day.
Yeah, it's not possible.
It's not possible. And it's pretty easy to do, right? If you're in the home and it's so close. So for me, it's I did a very small thing at work. I put a truly human notice, and I said, in this time, please, recognize that I might be sending you an email that is convenient for me, But if it's not convenient for you, I welcome you to, put it, respond back to me when it is, because taking time with family, eating right, is priority, or something along those lines. I'll send it to you if you're
That's
interested.
really
But
nice. I like that a lot.
it's like a little truly human notice.
Mhm.
And people have, I can't tell you how many times people have appreciated it, just seeing that in my email signature.
Mhm.
Like, whoa, okay, she's sending me an email at 11 o'clock at night. That may be a good time for me. I put the kids to bed. I may have done a yoga class at 9:30 in the morning, but now, I'm sending you an email at 11 o'clock because that's good for me. I'm
Right.
not expecting you to send me an email back at 11 o'clock at night if it's not good for you.
I love that. You're giving people permission to make their own boundaries. And
Yes,
I think that's
yes.
important. I think that is so key to having that harmony. I won't say balance because there's no
Right.
such thing. But you definitely can create more harmony in your life by just keeping it real and just saying, hey, listen, I'm giving you an answer when it's good for me. You give me an answer when it's good for you. And I love that. I think that's fantastic. Please send that.
Yes,
Um,
I will.
and you know what? I might, for our audience, I'll put
For
it in
sure.
the notes so that you have it, so that you can send a truly human notice, to all of your coworkers.
Yes, I would love that. Would be a dream state, Joy, if we can have everyone just copy and paste that
Yes.
signature and circulate that around to the work world.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so we're running out of time, and I don't want to take up too much because I know that you are changing the world one step at a time. I
Okay.
wanted to know, this is a question, my favorite question to ask on Career View Mirror, is if you could share one or two career tips with your younger you, what would they be?
I know. I was, this question, because there's so many things that, right? Like, you're like, I just wish you knew, but it's kind of part of the journey of
Right.
learning and self exploration. So for me, is really like own your own power,
Mhm.
like have self compassion and self love for yourself. Um, you know, for me, it's taken me this long to give myself the self-love. And I still struggle with that. There's
Yeah.
times I'm really hard on myself. I have to be this perfect person. And I just I'm sure you saw this one picture I sent. It was a seashell that my daughter found on the beach, and it had a crack in it. And she goes, Mom, I love the seashell, but it's cracked. I'm like, perfect learning moment for a
Mhm.
10-year-old, because I was like, look how perfectly imperfect it is,
Yeah.
and she was like, what do you mean by that? And I was like, well, and I remembered my father would share this quote from Rumi, who is a Persian poet. My parents, as I said, they're from Iran. The wound is the place where the light enters you, was a quote that my father would share from Rumi. And
Mm.
in this defining moment with my daughter, I'm like, sometimes, we all have pieces that are imperfect about us or broken, like the seashell, but that's where the learning happens. That's where the light comes in. And, it's something that I wish I knew, 20 years ago. It's
Yes.
like, as we're going through life, lots of ups and downs, lots of challenges and various things, embrace those moments, and know that, again, that's how the light comes in, is through those wounds that you're experiencing in life.
Wow.
So that's one big piece of advice I would give
That's
myself.
fantastic advice. That is fantastic advice. Thank you so much for sharing all of these great nuggets of knowledge about your career view past, so others can pave their future. Where can we find more information about you? Do you have a website? Do you have a
Yes,
book?
well, I'm on
Oh,
LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. You can find me there. My website, my personal website, igniteinclusion.com. Certainly, you can message me there. But yeah, I would love to stay connected with your audience, and it's always so amazing just talking with you. I
yes,
love the
indeed. I
energy.
know we could go for hours. And you know what? We probably, I will put the name of the book for Miss Brown. We'll find out what Brené's book is.
We do. We
And put that in there. But I definitely will share all of the places where we can find you, Christine. And thank you for allowing us to peek into your world and how you've created a culture of belonging through your vast career and the things that have impacted your life.
Thank you. Thank you for just the space to have a conversation and learn from each other and continue to champion elevating voices like this. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. I really enjoyed being here with you.
Yes. Thank you all for listening and watching Career View Mirror. If you like what you've heard and seen, please like and share and subscribe and tell a friend and whatever it is that you need to do to share it and pass it on. This is some good stuff here. And I really appreciate you watching and listening. Thanks again for watching and listening to Career View Mirror, and we'll see you next time. Take care.